All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Mindful Hunter podcast. I'm your host, as always, Jay Nickel. And today we are finally going to dig into the behind the scenes of not only the final goat hunt that I did this year, but also some behind the scenes stuff from, how I made the film full circle and all the rest of it. So to catch everybody up, last night was the premiere of my film Full Circle, which is basically it took me 13 months to filmed it over 6 different goat hunts in British Columbia. And ultimately I wanted to try and do something completely unique and different and kind of capture this whole saga, which is actually like a 5-year saga of me trying to kill a mountain goat in British Columbia and trying to kill a mountain goat in a very specific way. I truly believe sometimes, how you do a thing is more important than the thing that you actually do. And I had a very clear idea of how I wanted to go about killing a mountain goat in British Columbia. And I will just say right out of the gate, I could not be more grateful for how the premiere went. It was outstanding. So I did a live stream beforehand, and then the premiere was live on YouTube, and I was in the chat room the whole time. And that is 100% how I will be releasing all my films from now on. And I've already got some ideas about how I can level it up. My daughter attended with me. We did a bunch of giveaways. Just the sense of community in the chat room and being able to speak with people in real time about the film as they were watching it was just like a super rewarding experience. And I was very nervous about doing that. I mean, part of you thinks, is anybody even going to show up for this thing? And then, I kind of have my YouTube release strategy down to a fine science. I know what time of day, I know the day of week, I know the type of views that gets me. So I have a system that I have a lot of faith in and that I'm used to. And this was a complete departure from that. So I was nervous. And to say it was a success would be an understatement. I'm just full of gratitude today. Couldn't believe it. So a little bit of housekeeping in that regards. So I did a run of limited edition film related t-shirts. If you just go to Forged in the Backcountry, go in the OG collection, and you will see a Full Circle limited edition t-shirts. I'm only selling 50 t-shirts. And I also printed 10 super high quality movie posters, 18 by 24 inches. They're insanely badass. I can't wait to get one posted on the wall behind me here. So of the 50 people who buy t-shirts, I am going to randomly select 10 individuals who will get one of these posters numbered and signed, sent to them along with their t-shirt. I also did up some custom stickers, and everybody who buys t-shirts will get some stickers. In addition to that, to help celebrate the release of this film and kind of what it means for me, and to finally let you guys in on this project, I'm doing a 10% off code for Forged in the Backcountry apparel site-wide, and that is going to run until midnight Pacific time on Friday. So after this goes live, there will be another 24 hours-ish. More like a day and a half. It'll still be up. So the code is Full Circle 10, all one word, FULLCIRCLE 10, Full Circle 10. I'm trying to think. The only other kind of caveat right now is that Canada Post is on strike. So I'm kind of restricted as to what I can ship for right now, but everybody can go ahead, use the code, place your orders. And the moment that the strike is over, I will get all that stuff shipped out. If you haven't watched the film yet and you're listening to this podcast, it doesn't really matter which one you do first, but they are going to be very different. So don't think just because you listen to this podcast, you don't need to watch the film. The film is a completely different look at kind of what went down. This podcast, I'm going to try and do some behind the scenes film stuff, like let you guys in on what I was thinking with the film. And now is a good point to kind of get into some of that, because in my past films, They talk about breaking down the fourth wall when you do filmmaking or TV. The fourth wall is kind of the wall the camera's behind. So think about when you're looking at a sitcom, you only ever see three walls: the left wall, the right wall, and the back wall. The fourth wall is the one the camera is shooting through. And to break the fourth wall means to let the viewer in on the fact that there is a filmer. And anyways, that's the general concept. I've always tried to do that in my films because primarily I've been solo filming, and I think it's super weird when people try to pretend that, you know, the camera just magically appears in front of them and they walk past it. And then I'm supposed to forget that you had to turn around and go get it? Like you're the only guy there. So I've always just been very transparent about the fact and then about my thought process. And that's why I always do like these little wrap up monologues at the end to let you guys know what I was thinking. But with this film, while still having that transparency, I wanted it to be more of like a film. And sometimes I think I don't give the audience enough credit. Like I have to hold their hand and like lead them through my thought process. When to be honest, we're all hunters and we've all, you know, been in a lot of these situations. And I think sometimes me talking for 10 minutes at the end is completely unnecessary. So when it came to the transitions and my ending thoughts, and there's a couple issues that cropped up, I kind of left it more open-ended. And again, this was the combination of 6 hunts over 13 months. So trying to get it down into some kind of like reasonable time frame that people would actually watch meant I had to cut out a lot of stuff. And that's the kind of stuff that I want to get into on the podcast today. So for some context, as I mentioned earlier, I've been hunting mountain goats in British Columbia for 5 years now. I don't even know how many hunts I've been on. I've produced 2 other goat films. One is called Maximum Effort, and the other one is called Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night. They're both winter goat hunting films. I'm very proud of both of those. They illustrate the struggle of hunting goats in the deep winter in British Columbia very well, but I was unsuccessful on both of those. And to be honest, I'm just getting a bit sick and tired of making films where I'm unsuccessful. I'm glad that people are interested in them and watch them, but there's always a sense of frustration there. So I started this project last August, and I didn't even know it was going to be a project like this. So Hunt 1 is me and Vance the beginning of last August. And then Vance goes home halfway through that hunt. I go back in by myself, kind of calling that hunt 2. I did a major relocation, went back into myself, so calling it a different hunt. Hunt number 3 was in January of 2025. I went up north by myself. After 3 days, I got 60 mils of freezing rain, had to turn around. There was no goats. Avalanche danger was high, had to pull out. Hunt 4, I go back in with my buddy Rick, have an amazing time, get on top of an ice field, climb 5,400 feet, had an amazing 5 to 6 day hunt, and it was crazy cold, like minus 27 Celsius at night, and turned up a nanny on the last day and wasn't able to get a goat. Hunt 5, I went back in with Vance early August of 2025, smashed a huge billy, 54-inch. It'll go B and C all time. It's just a massive goat. And it's a goat that I've been watching for 2 years. And then Vance went home the day after he killed that goat. And we'll talk more about that. And then hunt number 6, I took Vance all the way back to his vehicle, and then I went back in solo. And then that hunt unfolded that I'll get into more. So there's the context of the film. 6 hunts over 13 months. I am going to spend the majority of this podcast talking about the last hunt because I've kind of talked about other ones on different podcasts and stuff. So me and Vance had been discussing this goat hunt for a year, ever since the last one. Now, Vance went home early during the first hunt that we did together. And let me talk about that a little bit. So we go into this spot. We try to dip in for these goats. It turns into just an absolute shit show. I mean, I've spent almost 2 decades in the mountains of British Columbia, and it was one of the worst hellholes I've ever been in. So we made the responsible decision to turn around and pull out. That whole day, I don't know, 14 hours hiking or whatever it was arguably one of the hardest days I've ever had hiking in the mountains. And the next morning, Vance woke up. He still had 6 days left of holidays. And he said, listen, man, I'm going to go home. I'm a little worried that if I go hard like this for another 6 days, I'm going to get home and I'm not going to be able to go back to work. He's a heavy duty mechanic. And I think the response, and his foot was pretty banged up. He hadn't tied his one boot up quite tight enough, and his toes had taken a bit of damage. And so he thought the responsible thing to do was to pull out. And I wasn't about to argue with him. So I said, okay, no worries. Drove him back to his vehicle in Prince George, dropped him off, and I went and found a new spot and went hunting. So let me talk a little bit about Vance going home on that one. Here's one thing I probably don't do so great as a partner. Like when I feel a partner start to give up, I kind of check out. Like I'm not one of those guys that's like, listen, if you're in it with me and you're having a bad day, I'm there for you. But once I feel somebody and I can see them kind of quit, I normally kind of just disassociate. Like, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's from years of being like, you know, running crews of tree planters. As soon as somebody told me they were like sick or tired or had enough, like I tend not to buy it. And I'm like, well, listen, if you're not in it to win it, we're done is kind of always been my thing. And I'm not a guy who needs a cheerleader. Like I don't quit because I don't quit, not because somebody gave me some kind of pep talk. And I thought over the course of the next year, I was like, I wonder if I should have tried harder for Vance. Like, I wonder if, because he hadn't done a lot of mountain hunts at that time. He does a lot of hunting, but it's like all day hunting in Alberta. And one of the things you learn after years of mountain hunting, and you don't learn this the first time out, you don't even learn this the first year or two, but you get to this place in mountain hunting where you're beat to shit. But no matter how beat to shit you are, it's like there's not a whole lot a good night in a hotel, an entire pizza, and a 2-liter of Coke won't fix. And it's so, I've been so beat up so many times, and then you just go take a day off. You got to move spots. You get a hotel, you sleep 16 hours, you smash 5,000 calories, you wake up the next day, you get a big ass coffee, and it's like, okay, I'm ready to tear the world apart again. And I being criticizing myself or providing constructive feedback to myself, I always thought to myself, maybe I could have done a better job as a partner of saying to Vance, listen, man, I know you feel like shit. Just give it one day. Let's go back to town. Let's get a hotel and have a bunch of food. See how you feel in the morning. Because I think after you sleep on this, you're going to feel differently about wanting to go home. But I did not do that. He wanted to go home. And listen, he's a grown man. At the end of the day, it's his choice. So, because that's the other thing. The flip side of the coin that I'm describing now is that you guilt somebody into staying, and then you get a day or two deep, and it just ends up wrecking your trip even more because now you got to come way out. So it's a fine line. When you're already close to town and somebody wants to go, it's like, ugh, what do you do? So there was no perfect solution. But a lot of people after seeing this film are going to be like, well, why did you bring Vance back the second time after he went home early the first time? This is why I brought Vance back the second time, because I thought to myself, everybody deserves an opportunity to learn a hard lesson. And I thought, you came in, you got your ass kicked, you had to go home, but probably once you got home, and I know once he got home because he texted me 2 days later and he's like, yeah, I should have gone back in. So I thought to myself, yeah, let's run it back. Let's do it. Plus I had all this great intel. I knew where we were going. The hike wasn't that bad. I was like, we got this. So anyways, we had been planning this hunt for a year. Now, to backtrack again, after Vance went home, I went into a new location, turned up this Billy. A good buddy of mine had given me some intel, so I don't want to pretend like I, found this spot from scratch or anything like that. And I'd give out his name, but that would put him on blast, and he doesn't want all you guys messaging him. So just know, I know you're listening to this right now, and I deeply appreciate you as a friend and for the help you gave me. And I would hate to come off as somebody who pretends that I do things by myself. That's probably my biggest frustration in this industry. If I told you the amount of people, the amount of behind the scenes intel I have about people who make films and create content that are pretending like they did it themselves, and I know people like walked into that spot or there's somebody just out of frame, it disgusts me. So I vowed to myself I will never do that. Anyways, I went back into that spot, that new spot on Hunt 2 of 2024, and turned up an amazing billy. And anyways, I have this big battle with this billy over 5 days, and I'm not able to kill him, largely due to a lack of marksmanship on my part, which is why that was my primary goal in 2025. I went to the shoot to hunt course. I built a new rifle. Like I just, it was a big priority for me. And I feel like I knocked that out of the park. So this whole year when we're planning this hunt, it's like, I know where we're going. I had 2 other backup spots. I know the billy we're trying to kill. We did all the gear planning. We did podcasts about it. It was like, we were on like Donkey Kong. So we meet up in Prince George. We leave Vance's vehicle. We drive up north. The way things are scheduled, my daughter goes to summer camp. So I think we met on the 29th, drove up on the 30th, and hiked in the morning of the 31st. So we knew we were getting in there a day early, but I was like, I had to go up north anyways because I had to drop my kid off in Kelowna. So we hike in on the opener. We get to camp probably 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And I decided, listen, we're just going to stay in camp. We can do some glassing from camp. The really good spot is like another 45-minute hike, and you kind of get into this hanging basin. But I was like, I don't want to go back there because there's probably goats back there. And if there is goats back there, finding them today isn't going to do us any good. And if we do go back there, we might blow them out for tomorrow. So the game plan was stay in camp and save that hanging basin, which was kind of like the honey hole for the next day. So we stay in camp. We glassed goats on that first day, but kind of way far off. There's this ridge that's like another couple miles past the first spot where I go. I call it the nursery ridge because you see these groups of like 40 goats, which you just know are nannies and kids. But anytime there's groups that big, there will always be a couple billies around, normally on the backside of some kind of ridge. And they'll like pop over that ridge every now and then and like check on the group. Just be like, yeah, you're still here. Okay. And then go back to doing whatever they're doing. So like, it's good to know where those are, but it's also like when you're goat hunting, you don't get super excited about that. Anytime you see a group of any more than 3 goats, it's like, it's probably just nannies and kids. Unless it's in the rut, then that's a different story. So anyways, we glass up these goats really far off. There's nothing we can really make a play on. So we just have a great night at camp, get set up, get everything tickety boo. We're staying in a 4-man teepee, the Argali Absorka, got a great camp. And that's what I mean. Like I had this year so dialed. I knew the hike in, I knew where we were camping. Another major takeaway, I'm going to do a whole video at the end of the year about just the general takeaways. Like I've done more hunting this year than I think I've gone on 12 hunts in 2025 so far. And I've killed animals on 9 of them, either myself, a friend, or a guide. And I've learned a ton. But I think the single biggest takeaway that I've learned is that if you want to reliably kill stuff, you got to do it in areas that you know. Going to a new area and killing something, I'm going to say is like 5 to 6 times harder, or success is 5 to 6 times less likely than in an area you know. Like now that I know my bear area where I guide, it's like I don't even have a doubt. You give me 6 days with somebody, we're going to go kill a bear. Might be on day 6, but we will find and kill a bear because I know all the spots. Going to a new spot like I just did in Montana for elk, it's like, dude, you spent half the trip just kind of figuring out where to go. And so having a goat spot that I had spent a week in the year before, I think there's a very practical performance increase because you know the area, you know where the water is, you know where you're going to camp, you know the hike in, you know where they tend to bed, but also just your level of confidence is through the roof. So you functionally behave differently because it's not like I hope there's animals in there. It's like, oh, I know where there's animals are in there, and I know exactly where they are. So it just changes the way you behave, and you feel much more confident in success. So we wake up the next morning, and I had even, it was so funny, I'd even told him, listen, last year before anybody came into this spot, there was goats on this face right by camp. I bet you, as long as no one's come in before us, we're going to see some goats on this face right near camp. But that first day, we did not see any goats on that face. So wake up the next morning, and right away, it's like, okay, let's go to the honey hole. We go to the honey hole. We're there all day. We glass up a ton of goats. There's a couple good billies, a bunch of nannies, a couple kids. I don't know. 7, 8 goats altogether probably, but nothing is in a spot where we can get a good shot on it. And so we sit there until we decided to pull out just before dark because, again, there's this face that's kind of on the backside of the ridge where the honey hole is that faces camp. And it's like, well, let's get back so we at least have an hour of daylight to watch that, because clearly whatever's going to happen here today has already happened. So we hike back to camp, drop our gear at camp, walk maybe another half a kilometer to get to a little snow patch so we can melt some snow for water. And we're sitting at that snow patch, and Vance looks over and he's like, dude, I think there's a goat. And I kind of brushed it off at the time because I was getting water. And then he's like, oh no, there's a goat there, man. And it was right on the ridge, exactly where I said the goat was going to be. And we go back to camp. We drop our stuff. Vance gets his shooting stuff. I tell him to grab his shooting stuff because we had always agreed, because Vance was coming from out of province, he would shoot first because my sentiment had been, I can hunt goats all the time. Coming from Alberta, there's really only like 1 or 2 kind of once in a lifetime goat tags you can get. So my thought was, I can always go back and hunt goats again. If he's coming as a hosted hunter, I want to give him the opportunity to shoot first. And so we see this goat. We don't know much about it other than it looks like it's a billy. Just behaviorally, the fact that it's alone, well, there's a good chance that it's a billy. So we grab all our stuff. We go over there, and it is a billy. I'll be honest. Long story short, it turns out to be the billy I watched for the whole week the year before. I did not know that at that point. And people have asked me, like, would you have still let Vance shoot it? The answer is I don't know. I'm probably 60-40. 40% I would have let him shoot it. There is definitely, if I had have taken a real close look and realized that was the billy I sat for last year, I do think realistically there's a good chance I would have said, listen, man, I got some history with this goat. I would like to shoot him. And Vance would have let me, hands down. If I had have, I know for a fact, if I had said to Vance, hey man, I'd like to kill this billy, he would have been 100% supportive of that. He even hesitated a little bit when I told him to shoot. But we just knew it was a billy. We knew in principle he was going to be up first. So he gets ready. I get the spotting scope on him. This thing walks in on a rope to 403 yards. Vance smashes him with 3 shots. Like 3, I will say, man, Vance is a hell of a shot. When you watch this film, he put 3 pills into that thing in under 5 seconds, all well placed. Just a beautiful display of marksmanship. And this billy falls down the hill. And then that's that. We're jacked. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it happened. It happened opening day on the face where I said it was going to happen. It was like I Babe Ruthed that shit. And by now it's like 15 minutes from dark. And so we decide it's a nice chill evening. We've never seen any bears in this area. We've never seen any coyotes or anything. No wolves. It's like, we'll just leave them. We'll leave him for the night, and we will go get him in the morning. And so, yeah, we celebrate, we have dinner, we go to bed, we wake up, we pile down into this valley. It's a pretty steep drop. I don't know, maybe drop 2,000 feet or something like that. Get to the billy, and that's when I realize, oh my God, we just killed the Monster Billy. This was the one I sat on all year last year. And I was still stoked. I wasn't even really regretful. I mean, we're still only on day 2 of a 12-day hunt at this point. So I'm like, dude, we got all the time in the world. If there's a Billy like this back here, there's got to be more genetics in this basin like this guy. So Billy turned out to be like 54 inches. I think he was 11 and 8/16 or 11 and he was like 11 and 3. He was just shy of 12 inches long on one horn and maybe like a 16th or 2 shorter on the other horn. 6-inch bases. Like he's an insane goat. Insane. Yeah, like BNC all time, beautiful goat. So we process the goat, we pack it up the hill. I will say at this point, Vance had been kind of lagging in the hiking department. But nothing that I would consider like particularly noteworthy. Remember, I'm basically hunting full time now for a living. So I've already spent 6 months in the woods. I'd already gone in and scouted my other goat territory twice that year. So I'd literally hiked up into goat country 3 times in the last 2 weeks by the time we get to this hunt. And I'd been hunting bear for 2 months before that. So like my mountain fitness is top notch. So I'm kind of used to people being a little bit behind. So I didn't really think much of it. We get back to camp. Everything's good. We go bury. We brought garbage bags. We dug holes in, there's this snow patch close to camp. We dug holes in the snow, put the game bags in the garbage bags, buried the meat in snow. We still had 3 days worth of food. Part of the strategy on this hunt was to go in light. So we'd only taken 4 days worth of food, thinking within 4 days, we'll either kill something and have to come out and deal with it. The hunting will be garbage. We'll want to come out and move to someplace else. Or the hunting will be great and one of us can just hike out to get more food. Or both of us can just hike back out to the truck, get some more food, and come back in. One of the mistakes I've made in the past is like doing these massive pack-ins with all this gear and all this weight. And it's just like, there's a whole sunk cost fallacy going on there. Anyways, I'm having much better luck with going in lighter and being more nimble these days. So we still had 3 days worth of food. We go back over at our honey hole. We start glassing. And around, I don't know, 2:00 in the afternoon, Vance turns to me and he goes, "Hey man, I hate to be an asshole, but I'm going home." And I had one of those like bullet time moments where the whole world just goes like, and it's like, you feel like you're looking through a tunnel. And my brain just like didn't process it. At first I'm like, what? And I'm not going to get into too many details because it's not my place to like discuss other people's personal details. But basically he goes on to say, I have a health issue and I don't think it's responsible for me to stay out here any longer. I need to go home. And it was a health issue that he knew about, that he didn't bring up. And again, I kind of felt myself disconnect and I was like, okay, but I still wanted to be supportive. And I said, so is this an emergency? Like, do we need to leave right now? Like, do you need to go to a hospital type of thing? Or I said, listen, we've got 3 days worth of food left. You have to hike out of here once, no matter what. Can we hunt for the next 3 days? You could literally just stay in camp, eat food, and I'll go out and solo hunt. And he's like, yeah, we can make it through the next few days. As long as I'm only hiking out one more time, I should be fine. And I'm like, okay, sounds good. So, sorry, my cat has climbed up and is purring incredibly loudly, and it's for some reason seems to be fascinated with the microphone on the headset. So I'm like kind of disappointed, but I'm also like, listen, man, we're seeing goats. We just smashed a big Billy. Give me another 2.5, 3 days in here. It's like, I'm going to kill a goat. We're going to get out of here. Everything's fine. Trip's going to be okay. And then rest of the day goes on. We go to get back to camp. And as we're walking up the hill to camp, Vance goes to me, So what's the plan tomorrow? Are we going to hike back to the truck? And I was like, what? I thought you said you were good for the next couple of days. And he's like, I think it would be best if I go home tomorrow. To put things in context, we had a 4-hour hike and to the truck. And then we had about another 7-hour drive from where the truck was parked to get back to Vance's truck. And that's when I just clicked. Like I disconnected. I was like, oh, he just quit again. Like in my mind, that's what happened. Like, okay, this just ain't for you. Something, again, I'm not going to go into details, but this guy's done. And in my mind, I'm like, I got 10 days left to figure out how to get this done. And now not only am I by myself, I got to get this guy all the way back to his truck. So I was like, okay, we need to be packed up and on the road by 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. So we went back to camp, we had dinner, packed up the next morning and hiked out. And I think I hiked round trip 8 hours and drove round trip 14 hours, got Vance all the way back to his vehicle, and I was back in at my camp spot by 1 p.m. the following day with 9 days left to hunt, and now solo. And a lot of people are going to ask, like, are you upset? Blah, blah, blah. Will you hunt with Vance again? Here's the deal. Vance is not a bad guy. I do not think Vance woke up one morning and said, I'm going to screw over Jay. I'm going to, use him to go in and kill a goat, and then I'm going to take off. I do not think for 1 second that's what happened. So I have no resentments towards Vance. Also, guys, I'm 47 years old. I've been around a long time, and life is way too short to be consumed by negative emotions for other people about things you have no control over. So I learned a very long time ago, you just, let go, man. Go along to get along, and like things that are outside of your control, just let them go. Somebody once told me a resentment is like swallowing rat poison and waiting for the other person to die. It is going to do you no good whatsoever, and the other person doesn't even know you're upset at them. So I also feel like I have a pretty good grasp on human psychology, and I understand what went on for Vance, and I don't hold it against him. Some people are built for this shit, and some people ain't. And you can't wish something to be that just isn't. But I would be lying if I didn't say I was frustrated at the time, because it was like you make a plan for a year, and then it's like all of a sudden you kind of have to call an audible, and now you got to figure out how to go do everything yourself. Luckily, I've done most of my hunting by myself, so it's not something that intimidates me, or I love it, actually. It was funny. I got back in there, and as soon as I crested the Alpine, I was by myself, and it was quiet. I had way more positive sentiment than negative sentiment. So I get back in, I kind of turn up some billies right away. I'm like, okay, this is going to be fine, man. We're good to go. I get back to camp, like things are cooking. And then the next day I wake up, it's pretty foggy. I go back to the honey hole, glass up a couple goats, but there's nothing I can do. Go all the way back to camp, nothing really happening, go to bed. And I wake up on the next day, which would be the day 3 of I got to go back and look. It was the third day. I think there was one day I walked into the basin, and then the second day I was fogged out and stuck in camp all day. And then on the third day, it was foggy again. And so I couldn't really go anywhere from camp, but every now and then the fog would break and I could glass from camp. It was about 10:30. I glass over on the left-hand side of the basin. I see this sow cub and grizzly kind of working across the basin, way below me, so like not a big deal. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And at the time I thought to myself, I wonder if they smelt Vance's goat carcass, because it was kind of down in the bottom of this valley. And I watched them go all the way around the valley, and then they go like it's got to be another hour or two by the time they cross this whole basin. Like it's massive. And then they get to the other side, and they are probably like 600 to 700 yards from cresting the far side of the ridge and just being gone out of my life forever. And I was like, oh, that's funny. They didn't smell Vance's goat carcass. And then I watched this sow grizzly like run into a wall. She just stops dead. And I look down and she's perfectly upwind of Vance's goat carcass. And she just turns 90 degrees and starts jogging down the hill. And I'm just like, shit. So the sow grizzly and the cub go down to Vance's goat carcass and proceed to just have a party. Like they are loving life. And so they're digging into this goat carcass, and like as the fog clears, I see them, then the fog comes back in and they go away, and they're kind of like eating and napping and eating, and they're just happy, they're having a party. And rest of the day goes on like that. I check in on the bears every now and then. It's foggy most of the day. Anytime it breaks, I glass what I can. I'm resting up, eating a bunch of food. Life's good. I still got 4 or 5 days left to hunt, so I'm not stressed. And then around 4:30 in the afternoon, fog starts to break, and I immediately see a billy kind of back where I've been seeing this one billy the whole time. And I'm like, I'm just crossing, because I've seen this billy here before, but he's up above these cliffs, and unless he clears a certain distance, A, he's too far to shoot, but B, even if I could shoot him, I can't retrieve him. And it's not so much the cliffs themselves, because if he cleared the cliffs, I could retrieve him. But if he got hung up in the cliffs, there's nowhere for me to get I can get to where he is right now, and I can get to where he would be at the bottom, but I can't get to where he would be if he got stuck in the middle. And it's like, I see so many people and hear so many people shooting goats they can't recover, or shooting a nanny. And it's like, I vowed to myself I wasn't going to shoot a nanny and I wasn't going to shoot a goat I couldn't recover. And after waiting so long, it was like, what's another couple days, or what's another hunt? I want to do this right. So I'm like, I'm just going to watch this guy. And if he clears these cliffs, and again, the bears are down at the base of the valley. So they're in proximity, but they're not super duper close. But there's a hanging basin kind of at the upper right-hand side of the main basin. And I'm like, if the billy gets all the way over there and I can dump him into that hanging basin, I'm very confident I can get down there and get him out well before the grizzlies catch wind of this goat. So in my mind, I kind of drew an imaginary line on the ridge, and I'm like, if this goat crosses this line, I'm dumping him. And so I proceed to watch the goat till 7:30, and he is ever so slowly making his way in the right direction. But then he'll go up a little bit, and then he'll go down a little bit, and then he goes back a little bit. And you're just like, oh my God, man, would you just commit? Just come across this face, cross this line, and let me put a bullet in you. And he just won't do it. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's 2 billies. And for anybody who's ever glassed mountain goats, you will think you are looking at a flat face, because you're looking at a hill, you're looking at it at an angle, and it looks like one flat contiguous face. But then you'll notice sometimes goats will just disappear or reappear, and you realize there's all these crevices and crooks and crannies that they hide in. I don't know how long this other billy had been stuck away in there, but I mean probably the whole day. Or maybe he came over the top and down the little crevice and then just popped out at one point. Anyways, all of a sudden now there's 2 billies. And the second billy's way bigger. I'm like, holy shit. And old, haggard looking. So, and all of a sudden this second billy starts crossing exactly where I need him to go. And I'm like, oh my God, it's game on. So I get the cameras rolling. I get my shooting position set up, and I'm watching this line in the hill, and I'm like, cross the line, cross the line, cross the line, and boom, he crosses the line. Then he keeps coming closer. So I'm like, listen, man, every yard he moves closer is a yard closer to me, a yard shorter shot, and a yard further away from the bear. So just let him keep coming. And then after 50, 60 yards, he stops, turns around, and starts to go back. And I'm like, okay, it's done. Game on. Lay down. Get in position, boom, one shot, dump him. Goat falls exactly. It was like a game of Plinko. It was a pretty shallow grade, at least for mountains, and he just rolls exactly where I needed him to roll. I'm like, oh my God, I can be down there in 10 minutes. This is nothing. Put the spotting scope back on the bears at the base of the valley. They did not even blink. Didn't respond to the shot. They're snacking away on this billy like it's no big thing. It's like amazing. So I gear up, I rack one in the chamber, and I go down there with my head on a swivel. And I texted my buddy, hey, dumped one, going to get him. If you don't hear from me in half an hour to an hour, let me know. That's not a good sign. I'm taking my inReach with me. I'll text you when I get down there. And so I go down in the basin and get down to the goat, and then there's nothing around, and it's a big open hanging basin. So I can see hundreds of yards in every direction, zero timber. Well, a couple little like pockets, but 5-6 trees, that type of thing. And nothing around, all is quiet, everything's good. And small note, the quick detach swivel cup had fallen into my stock for my sling at some point, like it broke. And so I couldn't use my rifle sling. It only attached at the top. So I had to hold on to it with one hand. So it was more like having a strap on your rifle, not a whole sling. And I had to go up this kind of steep section about 40 yards to get the goat and drag him back down. And so I look around, and I needed both hands to do that. So I look around, all is clear, drop my pack, drop my rifle, close the last 40 yards, and as I'm bending over to pick up the goat and pull it down the hill, I catch this flash of brown out of the corner of my eye. And I just got this like sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach. I turn around, and the sow grizzly and the cub are like 20 yards away, walking directly towards me, and they are perfectly in between me and my rifle. So if you draw a straight line, it's like rifle, 20, 30 yards, grizzlies, 20, 30 yards, Jay and the dead goat. And I'm just like, I had this again, another bullet time moment. Everything goes in slow motion. And I will not lie. People say like their life flashes before their eyes. I only had one thought, and it was crystal clear. I was supposed to pick my kid up from day camp in 4 or 5 days. And the only thought I had in my head was I cannot not pick her up. Like there is no version of reality where somebody has to go pick up my kid and tell her that dad's not coming to pick her up. Like I can't even tell you how strongly I felt that. Like it was just like, I was like, I don't care what happens here today. I'm picking that kid up. And really cemented to me how important she is to me too. Like I don't know, and for anybody with kids, like, dude, she's everything. Like anything else that I do, anything else that I've ever done is like horse shit compared to how important she is and the sense of meaning and purpose that she brings into my life compared to, and I've been lucky. I've been a very, very fortunate man. I've done some cool shit in my time on this planet and nothing even comes close to how important it is that I helped bring her into this world, and that I'm helping shape her into the person that she is. And the way she feels about me and the relationship that we have, it's the most important thing in my life. Anyways, I can't run up the hill away from the grizzlies. It's too steep, and it only puts me further away from the gun. I can't run downhill to my gun because there's grizzlies right in front of me. And so I yell at the grizzlies, "Yo, grizzlies!" And the cub instantly starts sprinting at me. And I'm just like, shit, that was the wrong course of action. So I immediately start sprinting side hill, 90 degrees, perpendicular away from the goat, the grizzlies, and the gun. The cub starts running after me, and the mom is like taking a couple steps after me, a couple steps after the goat, couple steps after me, couple steps after the goat. She can't decide what's more important at that time. Finally, I get far enough away that she decides to go for the goat. She goes and slams her jaws on this goat and proceeds to ragdoll it like a chihuahua. Like I've never seen anything like it. Like it was terrifying. And she starts making these like weird kind of like high-pitched growly mewing kind of noises. And then the cub, clearly that's the indicator, like, get your ass back here. So the cub turns around and goes back to mom. So at this point, both the sow and the cub are fixated on the goat. However, I still have got, at this point, like 100 yards to close to get my rifle back. And I've got to circle back in underneath the bears. So I take this wide arc, and every time I try and get closer to the gun, the sow comes off the kill and down a couple steps towards me, because I'm assuming she's feeling threatened that I'm going to try in and get the kill. So I'm just sitting there naked, no gun, no nothing, can't go get my gun, can't not get my gun. And I'm just like, okay, I just got to wait this out. And then there's only 2-3 minutes goes by, and she starts dragging the goat off. When she gets like maybe 100 yards away, I can start to close the distance. I get to my rifle, and at this point, I break out the phone, start filming the bear, because I need some kind of record that this shit even happened. Like, it's the first time I've ever lost an animal to a grizzly, but like you start getting nervous that like, oh shit, I've done something wrong. COs are going to get involved. I'm like, I better get some proof of like what actually happened. And so I film a little bit, and then I'm at a crossroads. I'm like, okay, now I have a rifle. I have a means to protect myself. Should I, fire a warning shot and try and get this goat back? And it doesn't take long for me to walk through the chain of events. Like, okay, what actually happens here? Okay, theoretically, I fire a warning shot. I scare them off. There's no way a sow grizzly is going to just leave a fresh kill. She might go away 100 yards. If I had somebody there, let's say a hunting partner who'd committed to going on a hunt with me, you could very definitely have someone on bear watch and someone processing the kill. And if they kept coming back in, you could protect yourself. That would be an option. But I'm like, even if I get her off the kill, what am I going to go process a whole goat one-handed with my other hand on my rifle so I can get this thing up out of here? Like, that is not going to happen. And then the other thought is, dude, when somebody kills a grizzly bear in BC, they go NCIS on their ass. And I'm like, I'm a content creator. Like, when you see all these guys getting pinched for poaching and all this other stuff, I'm like, I am going to get hammered if something happens and I accidentally kill this bear. And now that I'm kind of extricated myself from the situation, I'm kind of voluntarily putting myself back in. So I'm like, okay, responsible thing here is you're by yourself, you're in no immediate danger, back out, make a game plan. So I go all the way back up to camp. At this point, bears are like 800 yards away from camp. And there's still a half an hour left of shooting light. And I pick them up in the spotting scope, and they're just going to town on this goat. And so I have to go back into my tent and go to sleep like 800 yards away from these bears. So I still have one racked in the chamber. I get in my tent and I go to sleep. And I remember thinking to myself, there's no way I'm going to sleep tonight. And I don't know if it was adrenaline dump or what it was, but like 15 minutes later, boom, I'm gone. And wake up early, maybe 6 o'clock in the morning, get outside. As soon as there's first light, I'm able to glass up and the bears are still on the goat. So at this point, there's like a little knob where I have like 1 bar of cell service I can hike to. So I hike there, I phone it in, you get a dispatcher, I tell them the story, because I'm still thinking like, if there's a grizzly bear involved, there's some kind of investigation. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't want to leave. And then I was supposed to like go down there and kill it and get the kill back. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And I want to speak to a CO before I make a decision. So I tell my story to the dispatch. They're like, okay, we'll get a CO to phone you back as soon as possible. I stick around camp for another 2 or 3 hours. Finally, I get a message from a CO. I hike back up to the spot. I phone him back and he's like, oh, are you back in town? And I'm like, no, I'm up here. I don't know what you want me to do. Am I supposed to go get it back? Do you want some kind of evidence? And he like laughs, not laughs. He's like, no, dude, you're good. And he goes, you would be surprised at how often I get these calls these days. He goes, typically it's moose hunters, but the amount of kills that grizzlies come in and take from hunters in northern BC is astronomically higher than you think it would be. He's like, listen, man, you didn't do anything wrong. In my opinion, you should just pull out. And then we started having this conversation about it. And he's like, listen, here's the deal. It is definitely not illegal to fire a warning shot at a bear to like go in and get your kill. But here's the problem. If you go in there and then you were unable to get that kill out of there before they come back, and then you're forced to kill the grizzly bear, now you've kind of voluntarily put yourself in a situation where you're forced to kill a bear. And he goes, that happens, then we do have a situation on our hand where there's going to be some type of investigation and all the rest. And he goes, also, you've already cut your tag. And there's been, I had some conversations with people, and people think until you actually put your hands on the animal, you cut your tag. But the regs are very clear. As soon as it is evident that you have killed the animal, you're supposed to cut your tag. In fact, after talking with this guy and after reading the regulations, I now understand the regulations. Dude, you should cut your tag before you even walk over there. Like, if you can see a dead animal, technically that's how it's written. Like, as soon as it's evident that that animal is dead, your tag is cut, regardless of whether you're able to retrieve the animal or not. So he's like, listen, no matter what happens, your goat hunting is done for the year. You've cut your tag. Now that the grizzly has claimed the kill, my recommendation to you is to hike back out. He's like, you could wait around for a few days. Maybe they leave. You're able to go retrieve part of it or the horns or something. He's like, I have no problems with that. But again, you're solo. They're only 800 yards away. Now there's 2 goat carcasses in that valley. Who knows how many more grizzlies are going to come by. So I'm just like, okay, listen. And also at this point, like, I'm wiped. Like, I've just roller coaster of emotions. Huge big hunt, waiting for it all year. Then we smash this book Billy. Then my hunting partner leaves. Then I finally smash Billy. Then grizzlies come back in and steal my kill. Like, I don't have a whole lot left in the tank. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to fight this. I tried my best. I did what I could. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm coming back in here next year for sure, because I know the genetics in this valley. And maybe I can just come get my horns next year. That would be cool, to put some type of closure on the whole story. So I packed up and I left. And that's the end of the hunt. What's funny is that for a while after, I did feel like bitter, and I was, angry, partly at Vance, partly at myself. And the more I had to sit with it, the more okay I am with it all. Crazy adventure this year. Crazy adventure the last 13 months. Like, when I watched that film with everybody last night, I was just like, what is this? Like, what kind of life do I get to have? Like, how many people, there's people that get to go to one goat hunt their whole life. And here I have a collection of 6 hunts. I spent something like 40 days chasing goats over 13 months in amazing locations with amazing experiences. I had all kinds of close calls. I got to glass up lots of goats. I got to go hunting with Rick for the first time. He's one of the sweetest, most generous men I've ever met in my life. Like, he is just such a kind soul, he's just an awesome, awesome guy and a savage in the woods. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just had all these crazy experiences. And then, listen, I will be honest with you. There was a big part of me. The reason why I let Vance go first is that part of me, I didn't know what to do with myself without like that quest. Like, I am much more motivated by failure than I am by success. And part of what has always defined my character is my resolve and my persistence in the way I respond to failure. It took me 5 years to kill my first elk. And I did that solo at 10,000 feet in the White Mountain Wilderness in New Mexico. One of the craziest hunts of my life, one of the accomplishments I'm most proud of in my life. But like, all those, if I'd have gone out and killed an elk my first or second year, I don't even know who I would be as a person, because, fighting that failure was such a defining point of my life and contributed to who I am to such a degree that it's like, I don't even know who I am without my reaction to the failures that I've had. And maybe a lot of that comes from my recovery because that again is helped shaped me so much about who I am. So I'm coming out of this, and now that I'm looking back on the whole thing, the film has been released. I had this like great community experience with all these people during the premiere. You know, my daughter participated in it, and I know it sounds weird, but in this kind of very surreal way, I feel like I got the best of both worlds. Like, I had the adventure. I got to kill a goat with Vance. I got to kill a second goat myself, but I still have this unfinished business, this like copper taste in the back of my throat that after all these years and all this work, I've still never hiked my own Billy off the mountain. And it's kind of funny, like you will watch this film and be like, man, this dude is obsessed. Like, just goes and goes and goes. And if that was obsession, I don't even know what adjective to describe the feeling that I'm going into next year with. Like, I am so unbelievably fixated on going in there and killing a goat next year and bringing it out. Like, there is nothing on earth that is going to be capable of stopping me from achieving that. And it's like, that's what I'm grateful for. Like, I remember I was in my MBA, and there's this guy, Andrew Gillis. He's a good friend of mine. Haven't spoken to him in a couple of years, but I have a lot of respect for this guy. Super smart, super disciplined, like very, very successful. But he wasn't like a super passionate guy. And we'd have these conversations. Like, I was kind of jealous of his ability to maintain an even keel and just do whatever needed to be done, regardless of how he felt about it. And he was always jealous of my passion and motivation. He's like, you get so fired up about stuff. And it's like, that's what I'm grateful for now. Like, I wish everybody had their own white whale, like their own, you know, Ahab moment where they have this impossible mountain to climb, and the only thing they're thinking about is like how to achieve that. Like, there's such a purity and a simplicity to that. And it's such a, I don't know, man, like it's such a beautiful thing to have in your life. And it's like, listen, I can fail at shit all day, every day. Whatever. It's not the end of the world. I've been around long enough. I don't let it, you know, erode my self-esteem or impact, you know, how I feel about myself as a human being. But to be blessed with having these battles, and that's what this is for me. It's just like this epic battle that just will not end. And there's a part of me that's grateful it's not over. I know where I'm going next year. I know, dude, I could write you a game plan like you would not believe. Yeah. And I don't bear any resentments, and I don't bear Vance any ill will. I'm glad he got his Billy. You know, it was an experience we shared. It is what it is, man. People are who people are, and you can't wish people to be something that they're not, and you can't wish experiences to be something that they're not. So, yeah, I am unbelievably grateful for how everything turned out, the premiere, everything else. So a little bit of a wrap up here. Again, there's some limited edition t-shirts at forageinthebackcountry.com. 10 lucky, you know, people who buy those shirts will get an 18 by 24 high gloss movie poster. There's free stickers. You can use the code FULLCIRCLE10, that's FULLCIRCLE10, for 10% off everything at Foraged in the Backcountry between now and Friday at midnight Pacific time. Montana archery went phenomenally well. We did not kill a bull, but the amount of encounters we had and the lessons learned was insane. I'm going to do a wrap-up podcast with Ben, hopefully next week. I'm leaving Saturday to go guide mule deer in Alberta. So I got to try and figure out when I'm going to do that podcast. And then I'm actually going back to Montana. I'm taking my daughter and my mother inside the Kimbo camper and we are going to drag it down there and go for the rifle opener in Montana. So I'm literally home for 2 more days, leave for Alberta, home for 3 days, leave for Montana, and then I'm home for 2 weeks, and then I'm guiding mule deer here. I do have one last minute spot for any weapon mule deer in British Columbia the last week of November. So if you are interested in doing that, hit me up. If by some stretch of the imagination, somebody can make it to Alberta next week, I do have a couple mule deer tags left over. I'd have to get another guide to come down. But if there's somebody looking to fill a last minute adventure and you want to come to Alberta and chase big mule deer bucks with your bow, I think it's Monday the 13th. We're going to start hunting, let me know. Other than that, yeah, head on over to YouTube, check out the film. I'm more proud of this film than any other film I've ever made. Part of me is a little anxious now about what I'm supposed to do to top this, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'll just worry about more adventures, trying to kill more critters, and the films will take care of themselves. It's funny. Somebody asked me once, how do you craft the narrative or the plot for a backcountry hunt? And I'm like, you don't. You go back there, you turn the camera on, and shit just happens. It's how it always happens. So, thank you as always for the support. And if there's anything I can do for you guys, please reach out, because I couldn't be more grateful for everything you guys do for me. So yeah, there you have it. There's the wrap up podcast of the Goat Saga with some unfinished business still to be taken care of.